Hey everybody, welcome to this beginner's guide on how to play and assemble your tubo. So in this video I'm going to show you how to hold the tubo, how to tune it, how to play your first notes, how to change the membrane and the membrane ring, and then other general breathing tips and other helpful tips that'll get you started on this journey. So let's talk about breath technique for the tubo. The tubo is a very unique instrument because there's no embouchure or buzzing required. All it is, you're just blowing into the instrument, which makes it pretty simple and easy to pick up quickly. Some tips to making sure that you're not squeaking or getting just rough airflow is to keep an O shape with your mouth, and you want your bottom lip to touch the bottom of the mouthpiece. And then you'll just make an O with your mouth, and then you want to use a very gentle, soft, warm breath. So a good metaphor for the breath technique is imagine that you're trying to fog up a window on a car. You don't want to use sharp, cold air, you want to use a warm, soft air. And that will really ensure that you're producing a nice warm tone from the instrument. And it should sound like this. Alright, so let's get started with tuning your tubo. On the end of the instrument, you'll notice there's a membrane ring, and you can unscrew that and get a good look at the membrane mechanism inside. Just a simple trash bag, and you can even experiment with different types of plastics to produce different types of sounds, which I'll show you how to change the membrane later on in the video. But first we're going to start with tuning. So the way it works is the membrane vibrates and then creates the noise that then travels down the rest of the instrument. So the tighter you screw this, the more tension that will be on the membrane, and it will create a higher pitch. So what I do is I recommend downloading a tuner app, or if you have a piano, you can use that. And you're going to tune the tubo to whatever key you purchased. So this is the E minor tubo, so we'll be tuning it to the note of E. So one super important thing to keep in mind is the membrane is very sensitive. So you do not want to over tighten it. You want to be delicate with how you're tightening, and it does not take much to get it in tune. It's very fine adjustments, so don't go cranking on it or else you'll stretch the membrane and you'll have to replace it. And that's really the key to getting the most life out of each one of your membranes. So what you're going to want to do is pull out your tuner app, and we're going to tune it to the high note, so the high E. And so you'll start with no holes covered, and you will blow into the mouthpiece and then slowly turn, very slowly, turn the membrane ring until you reach that high E note. And one thing to keep in mind is that as the membrane warms up, it actually starts to go flat a little bit. So I would just keep blowing into the instrument for like 20 seconds. That'll warm up the membrane, and then you can accurately determine the pitch. Don't just spend 5 seconds and then think you're good to go, because then you'll be a little flat, and we want you to be in tune. Okay, so now that you're in tune, you are ready to learn how to hold it. So the way you hold the tubo is your left hand goes on top of the instrument, which is closest to the mouthpiece. Your left thumb goes over the thumb hole on the bottom, and then your index, middle, and ring finger go over the top 3 holes. And then you use your right hand as your index, middle, and ring finger on the bottom 3 holes. And the key to playing really any flute like this is making sure that you're getting a good seal on the holes. If you have a little bit of leak, it can cause the tone and the instrument to just not sound great. So if you're having trouble getting a nice, rich tone, that's likely why. It takes some practice to get the finger dexterity and feel the pads of your fingers covering the holes, but keep practicing, and before you know it, you'll get clean, smooth notes coming out of the instrument. So once you have the tubo all tuned and you know how to hold it, you're ready to start making some music and play your first notes. So what I recommend is you want to start with all of the holes covered, all 7, and then you want to slowly just raise your fingers starting from the bottom and going up, and then you work your way back down, and that'll just give you a good feel for how to do the simple E minor or whatever key your tubo's in scale, and it'll start getting your fingers and your brain used to moving in kind of unnatural ways at first. So start at the bottom and then just go up. And one thing that can be helpful is using your pinky as a stabilizer to keep the instrument from rolling too much in your hands. And this really just takes practice. It's weird to hold it in that kind of way, but you'll get used to it and it'll feel second nature eventually. Okay, so next I'm going to show you how to replace the membranes in the membrane ring. This is actually probably one of the harder steps in learning how to play and assemble the tubo. It's a little finicky, and so I'll show you just the best tips and you'll get the hang of it in no time. So the first step is to leave the membrane ring on the instrument, and then you just want to pull the outer ring. So just pull that off, and it is pressure fitted, so that's why it just slides right off and the little membrane comes falling out. And then you want to unscrew that inner membrane ring piece. Now what you want to do is you want to take a new membrane and just lay it over that first inner ring. And then what you're going to do after that is you're going to take the outer ring and you're going to just slide it over the membrane all the way down. And you'll notice it puts a lot of tension on the membrane, which is what we want for the vibration of the air to make a nice tone. Now, this is where things get a little complicated. If you screw it on and try to play, you'll notice it'll just be really high and it'll be hard to tune the tubo to the right note. So what you have to do is you want to just pull that outer ring just a little bit. And essentially what you want to do is watch until you notice just a little bit of tension release from the membrane. And you'll see a little bit of wrinkle and crease in the membrane. And that shows you that it's still taut, but it's not too tight. And again, this will just take some practice and you'll have to do a little bit of trial and error. So I have just a little bit of wrinkle in the membrane. And then, I don't know if that's in tune, but it's probably pretty close. And then it's ready to go. So that's how you replace the membrane on the tubo. And one final very important tip before you go is after every session, I recommend unscrewing the membrane completely. And this is for two reasons. First, it helps make sure that the membrane doesn't stretch out. You want to keep it pretty taut, and if you leave it screwed in, it can just kind of stretch out over time. So unscrew it. And secondly, there's no great airflow inside the mouthpiece, and so you don't want condensation or moisture to build up. So unscrewing it just helps it ventilate and air it out. And so the next time you go, it'll be dry and ready to go. And now you're ready to start making music with the tubo. Some of my favorite things to do are to find different backing tracks on YouTube in the key that I'm playing in. So for example, you can search for an E minor backing track and then just practice over that. That's a good way to get a feel for the instrument and do some fun improv music with it. Another thing that's really fun is to play over a drone note, which is just a solid note, and cello pairs beautifully with the tubo. So if you look up on YouTube, you can find any note. So E minor, cello, drone. And then just play over that. It's beautiful, it's rich, and it's a great way to practice and have fun with it too. And just be patient with yourself. If you've never played an instrument before, it can take a little while to really feel the dexterity and get the feel for the instrument. So just remember to be patient with yourself, practice and have fun. And yeah, that's the tubo. All right, well, I hope this video was helpful for you. And if you have any other questions or thoughts or concerns, feel free to DM me on Instagram or TikTok, or you can email me at thetubo@gmail.com, and I will try to get back to you as quickly as I can. Also, be sure to tag me if you post any videos of you playing the tubo. I am so excited to hear the different music that you all make. I'm sure there's a lot of talented musicians that are going to be far better at me at playing the tubo right off the bat. So I can't wait to hear the different melodies and music that comes from it. So thank you all so much.